Hi, everybody. It's Margaret Richards and from lifeinchrist.tv.com. So I wanted to come to you because, well, actually, the Lord told me to come to you and to bring a message. He gave me one just, I think, about a month ago. And we've been fulfilling what God told me to do in that. And then He told me to bring it to you. So that's what I'm doing. I haven't spoken to you since January 6th because, God hadn't given me anything to speak. But in January of this past year, everybody was really excited. It was a time when they were deciding whether Trump was going to come forth, and what was his name? Pence did his thing, which kind of was a betrayal to the nation. Well, not kind of, it was. And so, but in my heart, everyone was expecting God to turn it around and for this big miracle to take place. But from what God had shown me, that didn't make sense. And so I got on the YouTube and the TV and said, that doesn't really make sense to me. Because God showed me that we were under a terrorist attack. I mean, He gave me a dream in 2002, showing me that there was going to be a huge terrorist attack. It was going to be like 9/11, but it was going to be much stronger. And that it was going to affect our liberties. That He showed me about the fires. He showed me about the power outages. He just showed me all this chaotic stuff where the nation was, under terror, panicking, just a whole bunch of stuff happening. And it was very strong. And He showed us affecting the financial institutions, that our finances were going to be affected, just all this stuff. So we weren't taken by surprise when the COVID thing hit in March of 20. We knew, what was coming. And like I said, God showed me 18 years to the month before it happened. And so anyway, we were writing it out, and God told our family that it would not affect our family, that we would just be sitting by and watching it. And that's true. That's what we were doing. The electricity, the fires, even though we had some of the smoke, the COVID, nothing hit us. It was just, we were just blessed. And so, I know it's a funny thing to say when the rest of the nation's going through it, but, God's hand was on us. Not that it wasn't on the nation, but we had opened up a door to the enemy and an enemy attack that kind of allowed it all to take place. And God was humbling the nation. And, well, all that's taken place. So anyway, we kind of wrote it out. And then this last December, God showed me, our family, that we were under attack from a witch, from the enemy. We had people praying against us. And I know a lot of church doesn't believe in that, but we really kind of have to rise up and come back to the Word of God and find out that, yeah, there's a battle between good and evil. There's a battle between our God and Satan, who's always wanted to overthrow God, always wanted to exalt himself above the Most High. And to take his place. And so, that's what we're under from the beginning of time until now. He's defeated. He will not make it. Of course, you know that. They don't know that. So, they're trying. But anyway, so God showed me this past December that we were under attack and that we had the enemy praying against us and that we were to, come back in battle and pray against them. So we did that from December 18th when God showed me. We did it through January, through February, through March, and we became a little bit weary. It had been a, everyday thing. So I was getting a little weary. I was getting a little frustrated and disgruntled. And I said, Lord God, this doesn't even seem right. It's been going on too long. And so God showed me Daniel chapter 10, where Daniel had been seeking God and how the prince of Persia had been battling, against the angelic forces to stop this message coming to Daniel, the revelation. And so God led our family to do a 21-day fast, same thing as Daniel. And we did that. We started out on April, I think it was 5th or 6th, and we fasted for 21 days. On the 18th day, God answered, and he gave revelation. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you. And a little bit of what he shared in the interim, in this past year. But anyway, he led me to Daniel chapter 2. And it's about Nebuchadnezzar having the dream of the statue. He said it was a single great statue. It was very large, extraordinary in splendor. It was really an awesome sight. And it was really, on Nebuchadnezzar's mind, and he wanted to know the interpretation. So Daniel did some praying and came back, and he had it, and he came to the king. And he said, I've got it. And he said, you dreamt about this statue. And the head was made of gold, the breast and the arms were made of bronze, and it went down into the feet. And that's the part that hit me. I mean, God gave revelation. It was really amazing because it lined up with a part two dream that God had given me in 2004 about what would be taking place now. So the first one was in 2002. This Daniel 2 was relating to the dream that he gave me in 2004. So in that dream, God showed me that I had died to self. There was a celebration, which we all need to do. We need to die to self and live for Christ. So that part was really great. But then he showed me that I was back east, and I was, in the Manhattan area. And he showed me that buildings were imploding all around me. There were cement buildings. They were under attack. I would just be hearing nothing but explosions and seeing buildings crumble. And so then I looked to my left and I saw and heard that building implode. And then to its left, I saw the bottom of a building. And I kept looking up and looking up and looking up. And when I got to the top, I expected to see the Statue of Liberty. But instead of the Statue of Liberty at the top, and I mean, it was really high up. It was higher than the Statue of Liberty. It was like 20, 30, 40 stories high. It was really high up. But on the top of this, I saw a pedestal with a point, and on that were the feet and then, of course, the body of a Roman soldier representing the Roman Empire. And he was on top where the Statue of Liberty should be. And so it was affecting, the Roman Empire was affecting our liberties. And he was made of clay, but he was alive, and he was looking down at me. And then the next scene, from there, immediately, okay, don't get mad at me, this isn't my fault. It's just revelation from God. It is what it is. But I was in a church, and in the back of the church was a merry-go-round. And the merry-go-round was no longer working. The pieces on it, the horses and the different things on it were bunching up. And they were all kind of bunching up. And it was causing the merry-go-round not to work. So I saw a pastor to my right, and I went over to talk to him and saying, hey, you know what? We can fix this. The merry-go-round, it's not working. But he was so busy, so focused on his menial task of walking up the aisle and handing out a hymnal and placing it on each pew and just going back and forth, walking up the aisle, doing that. He was so focused on what he was doing that he wouldn't even give me the time of day. He wouldn't look up at me. It was like he wasn't hearing me. Oh, he was kind of hearing me. He was going, but non-interested. Just didn't care. Wasn't even aware of the merry-go-round, nor was he aware of that it was bunching up and not working, and that was the state of the church. And so I tried to talk to him. I tried to get his attention. I tried to tell him there was a problem. I tried to tell him it could be fixed, but he just wouldn't pay attention. And in the first part of the dream, God had also showed me a representative from Bush's administration, Condoleezza Rice, and she had come over and invited me to the White House. And at this point in the dream, I thought, you know what? I need to take her up on it. I need to go to the White House. And that was the dream. So here we have in Daniel 2 what God showed me just like a month ago in the end of April. He said, I told you about the statue. And he said, this was your dream. Now we will tell you the interpretation. You are king, are the King of Kings. And it goes down, and he said, other kingdoms will, come after you. They'll be inferior to you. And after you, there will arise another kingdom inferior to you, and another third kingdom of bronze, which will rule over all the earth. Then there will be a fourth kingdom as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron crushes and shatters all things. So like the iron that breaks in pieces, it will crush and break all these in pieces. In that you saw the feet and the toes, partly of clay and partly of iron. It will be a divided kingdom. but it will have in it the toughness of iron, inasmuch as you saw the iron mixed with common clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of pottery, so some of the kingdom will be strong and part of it would be brittle. And as much as it was, clay. The statue, the Roman soldier that I saw on top of the Statue of Liberty was all clay. It had no iron in it. That Roman soldier was made of clay. He was alive, like the Roman Empire is alive, but he was the clay part, and that thrilled me because God was showing and telling me right here that it's brittle and that it's weak. It says it down here, which thrilled me, even though this looks huge, even though it looks strong, even though it looks like a takeover and has taken over our liberties. It's brittle. It's made out of clay. It's weak. It's easily defeated. And I was just thrilled. And then the other part God showed me in this was that in verse 14, you continued looking until a stone was cut out without hands, and it struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and crushed them. And do you remember? Well, I don't know if you know, but Kim Clement also was given revelation, and I believe in 2014. And he talks about, what's happening now. But then he also said that there would be a stone, and he said, remember the name. And he said that it would be like a Snowden, and that it was going to come and bring revelation and kind of breakthrough. And, well, here we have the stone. The same thing Kim Clement talked about. And we know that he's going to rise up. It's going to crush what's happening here. It's going to defeat the enemy's attempt to take over this nation. But we have some things that we need to do too. We need to do our part. So God gave me this dream, and then he gave me the revelation, because in the dream, I left this minister and I went to the White House. And I'm not sure if you understand this or not. Some of you will that understand spiritual things. Some of you won't, that don't. But the Lord really directed me in here that I left this pastor and went to the White House. So last month, that's what I did. I didn't go to our White House because remember in Kim Clement's dream, or what do you call it, prophetic word, that there were two presidents. And that's what we have now. Trump is the legal president. We have someone that's trying to usurp that, but, he's not the president. So I didn't go to that White House. I went to Mar-a-Lago, and it was really amazing what God did there. I can't share all of that, but when I got back and ministered in Washington State, someone came on the live feed and said, do you know that Mar-a-Lago used to be called, or maybe still is called, the Winter White House? And so I looked it up, and by golly, there it was. It is called the Winter White House. And I thought that was so amazing how God has interceded and intervened and created ahead of time a Winter White House for our president. But the other thing that God revealed to me after he gave me this, before I went to Florida, I was leaning back and I was contemplating and kind of, talking with God and saying, well, God, how do I do that? How do I go to the White House? And the Lord spoke to me and he said, the same way you went to the pastors, you just go. And what God showed me, since then, when I was laying back and just contemplating all this, Satan is a deceiver of the whole world. We know that. He's one that deceives the whole world. Well, what is it that we need to combat that? And as I was sitting back, thinking about, saying, God, what do we do? The Lord brought revelation. I can't say it was speaking; it was revelation. It was just knowledge that was being revealed. And as I was talking to the Lord, He said, "Truth. You need to be speaking truth." And think about it. Satan has tried to muzzle us. He's put that band on our mouth and didn't want us speaking. But when you look at the book of Ephesians, what do you see on the in our battle against the enemy? Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. Put on the full armor of God, so you can resist the schemes of the devil. And he tells you that our warfare, our battle is not with flesh and blood, but it's with the demonic powers, who, by the way, have been triumphed over and rendered powerless. And the first part, I mean, he tells us 3 times to be strong. And then he gets down to the armor, and the first piece that we're to put on is truth. Why? Because the truth will make you free. You know, Colossians 2, verse 8 says, see to it that no one take you captive. That's what the enemy is trying to do, is to take this nation captive through philosophy, empty deception, according to the tradition of men, according to the elementary principles of the world, rather than according to Christ. So, you know, it's amazing what God wants us to do. He wants us as a combative force to start speaking truth, to come against, not to be quiet, not to shrink back in fear, not to be intimidated by what's going on, but to be strong in the Lord and the power of his might, to gain that strength. And in fact, that's a couple of the other things that God has shown me, because in the 2002 dream, when God was showing me that we were going to have this attack on our freedoms and on this country. How do I explain this? He told me it was China. And he showed me that in the first dream. I'm still thinking how to reveal this to you. In 2009, the Lord came to me. And he asked me, I could either have this beautiful, peaceful life, or I could go through what he called an F5 battle with the enemy. You know, I wasn't guaranteed to make it through. It was going to be this horrific battle. And he had a reason for me going through it, and I did. It ended in 2017. And it was amazing. I mean, we got the victory, complete victory in 17. But right after that, so we're talking what? It was like 8 years of battle. And he showed me at the end of that there was in the clouds, I saw like a vision of the clouds, and in the clouds formed, 3 parts of the dragon's foot. And then it kind of kept morphing and kept being revealed, and it turned into a dragon in the cloud. And then the dragon became red, and then God told me it was a red Chinese dragon. Well, after this thing started in March of last year, like I told you, God had been revealing things to me. Then he took me to Romans 12. So we've been, obeying God. But look at this. I want to show you this because this is still part of it. Revelation 12. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman, which we know is Israel, clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. Satan is under our feet. You know he's the lesser light, right? So on her head was a crown and 12 stars, and she was with child, and she cried out, being in labor and pain to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. The only thing God added to this verse was that it was from China. And I think we know that anyway. But, I didn't put it together until God revealed this. And he said he has 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its heads were 7 diadems, and its tail swept away a third of the stars of heaven. A third of the angels went with Satan and threw them to the ground. And anyway, he tried to devour the Christ. But down here in verse 7, it says, and there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon and his angels waged war, and they were not strong enough. That's number 2. Satan is not strong enough. And there was no longer a place found for him in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, and the serpent of old, who's called the devil, Satan, who deceives the whole world. That's why we need to bring truth. Because the only thing that's going to combat deception is truth. I mean, there's other things we need to be praying and stuff, but that is what God showed me was the tool that needed to do it. He was thrown down to the earth. His angels were thrown down with them. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of the brethren has been thrown down, he who accuses them before our God day and night. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. The blood is another huge weapon. We haven't been ministering about the blood in the church. But it's also, I mean, it's what defeated Satan on that cross. The blood, I mean, it's power. We have a blood covenant with God. You know, he shed blood on the cross for our salvation, for our deliverance. You know, it says, well, right here in Revelation, and they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony. God says, when I see the blood, I will not allow the destroyer to come into your house to smite you. I won't allow any plague. You know, the blood, you know, 1,000 may fall at my side and 10,000 at my right hand, but it will not approach me. I've seen the power of the blood when dealing with the enemy. So God has given us the tools and the weapons of what we need to use and do. You know, we need to be claiming and standing on our blood covenant, and then we need to be speaking truth. You know, it's just powerful. And here's the reason that Satan is coming after the United States. And I believe it's in 13 of Revelation. And when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth and the male child, or to the male child. And but 2 wings of a great eagle were given to the woman, so that she could fly into the wilderness to her place where she was nourished for a time, times, and time and a half, from the presence of the serpent. We are that great eagle. It tells you in Ezekiel, and it tells you, you know, here that those eagle's wings were plucked from the lion. Well, we know the lion is Great Britain, and that's where, you know, we came from. And we were plucked to stand up like a man, and we were called to be that refuge for Israel in the last days. You know, so Satan's wanting to destroy us. He's wanting, you know, to try to stop God's plan of us being a people that would help Israel in the last days, because he wants to destroy her. It's not going to happen. Satan has never won, never will be. You know, he's the tail, we're the head. He's always below, we're always above. Satan is triumphed over, rendered powerless, and defeated. You know, and disarmed. Colossians 2, verse 14 and 15 says he has canceled out, Christ has canceled out every certificate of debt consisting of decrees against us, which were hostile to us, and he's taken it out of the way, having nailed it to the cross. When he disarmed the rulers and the authorities, he made a public display of them, having triumphed over them through Christ. And in Hebrews chapter 1 or 2, it talks about him, that he's been rendered powerless. We have to walk in that truth for that to be true in our lives. It's like he's paid for our healing, but we see a lot of people getting sick. You know, why? Because it's the same as accepting Christ as your Savior. You have to receive it and stand on it. And that's the way it is with God. We have to be doers of the word, not hearers only. We can hear the truth, but if we don't apply the truth, you know, I think it's the book of James tells us faith without works is dead. We can't just sit back on our laurels and do nothing and wait for, you know, for it to go away. God requires us to the righteous shall, you know, live by faith. He requires us to be a doer of the word. And so God told me to bring this to you. He told me, gosh, I thought it was really amazing when he gave me Daniel chapter 2, because he keeps giving me pieces of the puzzle. And it's like everything's going back to what he showed me in 2002 and 2004. And he's just making it one complete piece. He's showing, yeah, we're under attack. This wasn't a fluke. You know, this was a premeditated attack from China and working with the Roman Empire, which is Italy. You know, they all have been coming after us, and not only us, but the entire world. You know, that Roman Empire wants to take over. But it's not going to work for America. You know, we are indivisible. Satan is not going to be able to defeat and to destroy this nation. We will arise, but we have to do our part. We've got to do what God tells us to do. We've got to be a doer of the word. We've got to speak truth. We got to claim our blood covenant. We got to know the word and stand in our authority. And you know, Mark, the book of Mark, the Lord's first sermon was repent and believe in the gospel. We have to believe the gospel. We have to believe what Jesus did on that cross. That he defeated Satan, and he defeated sickness, and he defeated poverty. And, you know, I mean, he took care of all the works of the devil. We receive it, and we stand in it, and we walk in it. So that's what God has told me to do. Let me see if there's anything I'm missing. Oh, only one thing. So I think this is important too. The Lord showed me, I don't know, a few years ago. He gave me a vision, and in the vision, I was standing at the seashore, and I saw a plane come from my right hand side, and nosedived into the ocean. And I went, oh my gosh, 300 people just died, and it was like panic. It was terror. I'm like, oh my gosh. And as soon as I said that, I was pulled back about 40, maybe 50 feet, and the scene replayed. This time, because I was pulled back and had a bigger view, bigger vantage point, this time I saw a little boy down on the beach throw a toy airplane, and it went across and dove into the water and crashed. And I thought, no big deal. It's a little boy, playing on the beach. It's nothing. Our perspective, where we are, how we're seeing it, is hugely determined by us needing to pull back. Because even though we see it, if we're not seeing the whole picture, then we're not seeing truth. I was always taught, and I'm sure that you were, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Believe what you see. There's an element of truth in that. But if you're not seeing the whole picture, if you're not taking the time to pull out of the situation, to pull back, to take time to think it through, how does this apply to the word? Is what I am seeing a true picture? Then we can be deceived. We have to pull back out of our emotions. We have to pull back out of the situation and say, okay, God, what's going on here? Because this is how it looks, but looks can be deceiving. And that's what's happened. I mean, everybody is panicking over this COVID thing. It's fear. What does fear do? It's the opposite of faith. Fear promotes the powers of darkness. Satan will try to fear you right into hell. He'll try to fear you right into disease. The fear, that's why they're coming across so strong in their propaganda of fear. Well, yeah, I mean, there are people getting it, but it is the survival rate is what, 98.6 or 99 point something. It's not what they're portraying it as. And we're all sad that somebody has died, but people are dying from the regular flu. People have died from the measles. People have died, from all sorts of things throughout the ages. And you didn't shut down a nation. You didn't shut down the world. I mean, I had the measles when I was young. I had both kinds, and I had the one where you had to stay in a dark room, and I mean, I was severely sick, and a lot of people got it. They didn't shut down the town. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm trying to be truthful. We have given it a place and elevated it to a place where it doesn't belong. Yes, there's been deaths, and I'm sorry for that. But if we weren't walking in fear, and if we weren't, creating it to be something that's not, it wouldn't be as severe as what it is. Does that make sense to you? I hope it does. I hope we're not walking in that deception. Yes, a plane hit the towers. Yes, people died. But it is a terrorist attack, and we have to rise up and say, no, I put my foot down. Satan, you're not taking the nation. Satan, you're a liar. Satan, this is not a death sentence to everybody that has it. Satan, you're not taking my freedoms. Satan, you're defeated, triumphed over, and rendered powerless. You're done for. You're not going any further. You're not destroying us. You're not using fear. You're not using this COVID thing to take our liberties, to take our lives, to take our finances, to the Great Reset. You're not succeeding in this. You are not going to destroy us. So we aren't helping Israel. You're not winning, and that's what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's what the Lord has given me. I've given you everything. He gave me Daniel 2. I suggest that you go back and look at it and read through it and see about the feet of clay, that they're brittle, that they're weak. Look at Revelation 12, see the dragon, how he tries to destroy Israel and how he just tries to destroy the children of God, but always under our feet, isn't strong enough, isn't going to make it. He's brittle, he's weak. This is not the iron part. Honest to God, it is not the iron part that crushes everything. Satan is not winning this. But you have to move. You have to act. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. So if you guys want to, get a hold of me if you have any questions, because I can't put everything that God's revealed to me, in a 20, 30-minute segment. I just can't. I'm giving you the cream, I'm giving you what's on top. And, there's a lot more that God has shown our family and prepared us for and trained us in. And like I said, if you have any questions or you need any help, let us know. Our website is www.lifeinchristTV.com. And there's contact information there. But do what God said. Speak truth. Stop walking in fear. Realize Satan's rendered powerless. Realize Daniel 2 and Revelation 12. And the other thing is, God showed me how this got started. We haven't been wholly devoted. As Solomon, wasn't wholly devoted to the Lord, even though he had 2 visitations. Personally, God met him, visited him. He served God. He built the temple, wisest man that ever lived. God gave him wisdom and discernment. And yet God said, don't marry these foreign women. When you're old, they'll turn your heart. And instead of obeying God, he kept to them in love, or I almost said in lust. But, 700 wives was ridiculous. But what happened? When he got old, what God said to him would happen, happened. When he got old, because his heart wasn't completely devoted, wholly devoted, because he didn't obey God and everything God told him to do, he ended up building altars, demonic altars to foreign gods, and he ended up serving them and worshiping them. I mean, that's for Solomon. You wouldn't think that would happen. But, I know people that God has spoken to them and told them, do this or do that. And they didn't do it. And it was a great sacrifice, a great price in our lack of obedience. If you love me, you will obey me. And so I'm encouraging you and exhorting you. Rise up, obey God, speak truth, read Daniel 2, read chapter 12 of Revelation, and pick up and start going. There's another dream God gave me of the angel of the Lord coming and revival. I can't share that now. I may share it in a later date. But one of the things that was needed for the American people, or just people in general, was strength. We have to walk in strength. Be strong in the Lord and the strength of his might. So let's be strong and let's rise up. I encourage you in that. So God bless you. And, just, I don't know what else to say. I just encourage you to take this to heart and let's act on it. God bless you guys. Okay. Contact me if you need to. Bye-bye.